In May 2023, a chilling discovery near Anda City, China, unearthed a haunting chapter of World War II history. A vast underground complex, lost for decades, was identified as the primary research site for Imperial Japan's infamous Unit 731. Operational from 1941 until Japan's surrender in 1945, this sprawling U-shaped bunker became a living hell for thousands of prisoners. With its labyrinthine corridors, men, women, and children from various nations, predominantly Chinese, were subjected to unspeakable horrors. These innocent victims were more than just prisoners. They were living test subjects, dehumanized and referred to as maruta or logs by their captors. The experiments conducted within the bunker were nothing short of monstrous. Prisoners were infected with deadly diseases like the plague and anthrax, then dissected alive without anesthesia to study the effects. They endured frostbite experiments, vivisections, and were even exposed to chemical weapons and explosives. This discovery unveils the horrifying extent of Unit 731's crimes against humanity, a dark chapter in history that many tried to bury. But the truth has emerged from the depths of this underground complex, leaving us to grapple with the chilling reality of what transpired within its walls. And that is just the beginning. In a brazen act of defiance against international law, Japan embarked on a clandestine biological weapons program in the 1930s. They exploited a loophole in the Geneva Protocol of 1925, which prohibited the use of these weapons, by arguing that the ban itself was proof of their effectiveness. Their opportunity arose with the invasion and occupation of Manchuria in 1931. This vast region, with its large Chinese population, became a secluded and expendable testing ground for their sinister project. Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii saw the potential in Manchuria. He envisioned a vast research facility far removed from the scrutiny of the international community where he could unleash his twisted experiments. Ishii's vision began to take shape in 1932 with the establishment of the Epidemic Prevention Research Laboratory at the Japanese Army Military Medical School in Tokyo. This seemingly innocuous facility was, in reality, the headquarters for what would become known as the Ishii Network, a web of covert units dedicated to the development and testing of biological weapons. The Japanese military, under Ishii's influence, viewed the Chinese population in Manchuria as no-cost assets, human subjects to be exploited for their research. This dehumanization fueled their ambition to achieve a competitive advantage in biological warfare, a pursuit they believed would ensure their dominance on the battlefield. In 1936, Ishii's dream was realized with the official establishment of Unit 731 in Pingfang, Manchuria. This was no ordinary research facility. It was a sprawling complex of over 150 structures, housing laboratories, detention centers, and even living quarters for the scientists and staff. The unit quickly grew to include 3,000 personnel, all dedicated to the development and weaponization of biological agents. Unit 731 was not just a place of research, it was a prison. A place where hundreds of innocent people were held captive and subjected to unspeakable horrors. The layout of the facility was designed to facilitate these atrocities. Research and experimentation rooms were strategically located around the detention area, allowing scientists to monitor their human subjects like lab rats. Scientists and doctors under the command of Shiro Ishii conducted a range of brutal tests, often under the guise of advancing medical and military science, but frequently veering into the realms of sheer cruelty without scientific merit. Victims, often referred to pejoratively as logs, were selected with a cold efficiency. Healthy individuals, once captured, were maintained in a state of preserved health only to ensure they could withstand the extreme conditions of the testing to come. These experiments were not limited to adults. Tragically, women and children were also subject to the horrors of Unit 731. Pregnant women were dissected alive to observe the effects of pathogens on the unborn. Children were exposed to diseases to study progression and mortality rates. The facility's so-called frostbite testing was among the most horrific experiments conducted. Prisoners were taken outside in freezing temperatures, where water was applied to their limbs until ice formed. These limbs were then subjected to blunt trauma to study the effects of frostbite. Following this barbaric testing, various thawing methods were applied to observe possible recuperation techniques. In the field of biological warfare, Unit 731 outdid even these gruesome acts. Fleas infected with bubonic plague were cultivated and then disseminated over Chinese towns to study the spread of the plague. Other pathogens like anthrax and cholera were also weaponized and tested on populations. These actions resulted in outbreaks that caused tens of thousands of deaths, turning entire regions into deadly epidemiological testing grounds. The extent of these experiments included testing the limits of the human body. Prisoners were subjected to grenade blasts at various distances to study the effects of shrapnel. Others were placed in pressure chambers until their bodies could no longer withstand the atmospheric pressure changes. Many were injected with animal blood or seawater to study reactions to non-human substances in the bloodstream. Such tests were designed to observe the breaking point of the human body under extreme conditions. Chemical weapons testing was another significant aspect of the research at Unit 731. Victims were deliberately exposed to phosgene and mustard gas in confined environments to study the immediate and delayed physiological responses. These experiments were often fatal, and any survivors were typically executed to facilitate post-mortem examinations. For the unfortunate souls imprisoned within Unit 731, escape was a futile dream. The complex was a fortress designed to keep its secrets hidden and its victims trapped. A towering 3-meter brick wall, fortified with electric barbed wire, encircled the entire compound. Even if a prisoner managed to overcome this initial barrier, a dry moat filled with electrified wire awaited them on the other side. The Japanese military had ensured that no one would leave Unit 731 alive. Within the prison walls, 2 separate facilities housed the victims. Building 8 held women and children, while Building 7 imprisoned men. These buildings were strategically located near the research and experimentation rooms, allowing scientists easy access to their human subjects. The close proximity of these facilities to the living quarters of the researchers further illustrates the dehumanization of the prisoners, who were seen as nothing more than lab rats. The victims of Unit 731 were a diverse group, reflecting the wide net cast by the Japanese military. They included common criminals, captured bandits, political prisoners, and even the homeless and mentally disabled. Infants, the elderly, and pregnant women were not spared from the horrors that awaited them within the walls of Unit 731. The exact number of victims remains uncertain. While some estimates suggest 3,000 individuals were subjected to experimentation at the Pingfang camp alone, reports say that the number was closer to 10,000. The majority of victims were Chinese, reflecting Japan's brutal occupation of Manchuria. However, the victims also included Russians, Mongolians, Koreans, and even a small number of Europeans, Americans, Indians, Australians, and New Zealanders. In the chaotic aftermath of Japan's surrender in World War II, the dark secrets of Unit 731 began to unravel. As the Soviet army approached Manchuria, the Japanese military, desperate to erase all evidence of their horrific crimes, embarked on a final act of barbarity. They systematically murdered all remaining prisoners within the Unit 731 compound. Men, women, and children, already weakened and traumatized by the experiments they had endured, were mercilessly killed. The methods were varied and brutal, including lethal injections, poisonings, and even shootings. But the killing of the prisoners was only the beginning of the cover-up. The Japanese military then set about destroying the evidence of their crimes. Buildings were demolished, documents were burned, and equipment was dismantled. The sprawling complex, once a hub of scientific research, was reduced to rubble and ash in a matter of days. The goal was to erase all traces of Unit 731's existence, to bury the truth of their horrific experiments in the ashes of their destroyed facility. However, some survivors and witnesses came forward, their testimonies painting a horrifying picture of the unit's brutal experiments and the suffering endured by its victims. The full extent of Unit 731's atrocities would not be revealed for many years. After Japan's surrender in 1945, the United States granted immunity to many Unit 731 members in exchange for their research data. This allowed the perpetrators to escape justice, and the truth about their horrific experiments remained hidden from the world. However, the discovery of the Anda bunker in 2023 has shed new light on the dark legacy of Unit 731. The bunker, with its chilling layout and grim history, serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the depths of human depravity. It is a place that will forever be etched in history as a symbol of the consequences of unchecked power and the importance of ethical boundaries in scientific research. Thank you for watching this video about Unit 731 and their horrifying human experiments. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video.